All right. Well, hello, everybody. I am so excited that you guys are going to share the next hour of your time with me. And I get to talk about one of my most favorite subjects. Please, if you get a second, please just pop into the chat and let us know where you're calling in from, or let me know, the royal us. Let me know where you're calling in from. And while you guys do that, I'll get myself set up on this end. Okay. Oops. Look at this. We've got a great crowd. Where are y'all coming in from? Niles, Michigan. Ooh, cool. Tucson, Arizona. Hey, Karen, how are you? I'm so psyched that you joined the program. Gloria, Manchester, New Hampshire, San Diego, Anchorage, Alaska. Ooh, how wicked cool. Oh, my goodness. Well, keep popping it in there. Let me know where you're calling in from, and I'm going to pull my slides up. All right. Okay. And let me just come over here real quick. So I think I want to be up here. Oh, wow. Florida. Go. Jeannie, how you doing? New Jersey. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Well, I'll give you guys a second to settle in. I am again so wicked honored that you're going to spend your time with me as we talk about the beauty we hide and the strength we share. And before I get started, I just am curious a little bit. When you saw this title, what thoughts popped into your head? What did you think we'd be talking about? Or is that kind of redundant? If I'm talking, what am I talking about? Hey, Liz from Springfield, Illinois. Tara, thank you so much for coming. This is wicked awesome. See. Resilience. Very good. Very good, Karen. Thank you. Any other thoughts about what we might be talking about? You guys are awesome. You're probably saying, just get on with it, Mary. We want to know what you're going to be talking about. Oh, it's okay, Tara. I knew what you meant. Well, the idea behind today's talk actually comes from an email that I had gotten, oh gosh, a while ago from a very dear colleague, and I'll share more of that detail with you, but that's what inspired this talk about the beauty that we hide and the strength that we share, exactly dealing with trauma in our own lives and how that helps us deal with the trauma in the lives of those that we serve. Absolutely, you've got it on point. There you go. Hey, Elizabeth, I see your hand raised, and I'm going to go ahead and pop that down. I'm still kind of like figuring out how this platform works, so please be patient with me. The universality and suffering. Oh my gosh, yes, beautifully stated, Elizabeth. Absolutely. And so without further ado, let me just get us moving on to this really, really important talk about the beauty we hide and the strength that we share, becoming trauma informed. These are my objectives that I'm hoping at the end of this session, or as we move through the session, we'll be discussing some of about the healing power of story and how our stories can actually ease the suffering of others. I'm going to introduce this idea of trauma sensitivity and developmental awareness, and how that plays into how we engage with others. And, my default setting is generally babies. I mean, I'm a NICU nurse practitioner, but it's really about being developmentally aware for all of our encounters, right? We're going to talk through, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to define or at least better understand the idea of passionate collaborative relationships and how that fits into the work of being trauma sensitive and developmentally aware. compassionate collaborative relationships is actually one of the 5 core measures, and I'll touch upon that a little bit more. And then, with your permission, I want to share information about how to become a trauma-informed professional, as we understand the importance of all of these other concepts and how they really come together in helping us discover the power that we have within us once we really understand being trauma-informed, being sensitive to the trauma experience of others, and how our own experiences help us make those connections of compassion, of connectedness, and of love. And so for me, I believe it really begins with this idea of story, the power of story. And we all have stories, right? Thank you, Jean, for sharing that insight as well. Yes, improve sensitivity and awareness about trauma. Absolutely. And I think it begins with this idea of a story, right? Everyone has a story, and everyone is a storyteller. Stories can be magical. Stories can give us hope. Stories can that help us feel better, help us connect with others. They teach us, and they help us understand the world around us, and they help us also understand ourselves. But you might be thinking, maybe, well, where do stories come from? And traditionally, I think we generally think of stories, in a traditional sense, of being, kind of very formal, right? They're long and involved with peaks and valleys. And certainly there are stories that fall into those kinds of categories. But I bet you dollars to donuts, if you if you took a step back and you thought about your story, there's probably some peaks and valleys in your story. And so, when I was preparing for this talk and really wanted to understand this idea and the power of story, I came across this very, 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 very short story attributed to Ernest Hemingway. It's a story of 6 words. And so I'm going to read you the story, and then I'm going to invite you to make some comments in the chat box about how this story touched you. What was the story all about? Okay, and here's the story. I'm going to read it to you. For sale, baby shoes, never worn. The end. Probably one of the shortest stories in recorded history, but it definitely tells you something, right? It conveys information. It conveys a history. It conveys feelings. Yes, Karen, it is. It's about loss. In 6 words, Ernest Hemingway, yes, was able to communicate probably one of the greatest tragedies that can befall a family. Yes, sadness. And you get all of that just from 6 words. And the reason why I highlight this is that I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of this, right? When we think about story, we think about all those convolutions, and we think about all the details, and we sometimes can get lost in our own stories. But what we're invited to do, particularly as healers, okay, and I hope you're cool with me using that word, healers, because that's what I believe. I believe all of us, regardless of our discipline, our professional calling, we are invited to be healers of the world, of our family, of ourselves, of those that we serve. And so understanding the power of our own story and being able to distill it down into a message that has community, right? A message that conveys an experience that is shared by other individuals. That's where the power of story really gets all of its, I'm going to duplicate myself, power, right? And so there is power in story, and we can use our own stories to help us connect with the stories of others. And particularly when those stories are fraught with loss, sadness, heartbreak, as many of you shared in the chat box. Stories really matter, right? I mean, Stories make us feel connected. They make us feel connected to our past. They help us understand our experiences. They help us understand the world around us. They also, kind of as that little short story that I just shared with you a moment ago, they help us relate to others in common grounding ways. And based on your comments too, this next thought, I think, kind of brings us all together. Stories make us feel together, and we feel with and through others when our stories are shared, and especially when we're feeling vulnerable. But as I say that, right, there's a light side and a shadow side to basically everything, right? The shadow side of stories is sometimes when we get held hostage in our stories. And we can see that with many of our patients, and even sometimes families and friends, when they are held hostage by their story. I want to share this quick little example that I remember. A colleague of mine, and she was a mom. She is a mom of a former premature person who's doing great now, just really excelling and everything. But she shared with me that she used to get really angry. I mean, she actually used the word hated, that she hated when nurses, when they were in the NICU, would tell her that they understood how she was feeling. It just sent her into a rage. And she, would share with me, like, how could they possibly understand how I feel, unless they had a baby born premature in all of these same circumstances and in the same situation. She was trapped in her story, right? And the nurse was not, I don't believe, was trying to diminish or disregard the unique facets of this woman's story, but she was trying to find a connection. And I think that's one of the challenges that we have, and it's part of the beauty that we can hide, right? When we're unable to open up our story and see the transcendent elements of the story. I mean, I've never had a baby born prematurely, but I feel I can empathize with that experience because of the common themes, right, of sorrow, of fear, of anger. I've felt sorrow, profound sorrow. I've felt fear and anger. It wasn't the specific situation, wasn't the same, but the emotion was very similar. And I think that's where we're invited to kind of find that common ground, but also understand. I mean, so when this woman, friend of mine, was telling me this story, to be honest with you, on first pass, I was like, gee whiz, I mean, I wish you could let that go, and I don't mean, I hope I don't sound heartless, it's just kind of like that reactive piece of me. I didn't say anything, but it was that reactive piece that kind of comes up. Don't get mad at the nurse. The nurse is trying to help, but that's obviously not helpful either, right? Because what this woman needed was, she needed to be heard. She needed to be seen. She was laying bare her suffering that she felt wasn't seen, that the nurse wasn't bearing witness to where she was in that moment. The nurse was trying to connect, but kind of, it seems like, probably missed the mark, because this woman, she couldn't see that this woman was trapped in her story. And I think that's the invitation that we have as we travel this, path to becoming more trauma sensitive, to becoming more trauma aware, is to, certainly cultivate all of that awareness and insight within ourselves. But then it's also important to then, once you find that alignment with your story, you see the beauty within, right? The wounds that actually bring more of you to life, so to speak, that you then, it's not about taking that then and shoving it down somebody's throat, right? It's having that awareness of the journey that I've just been on, my journey of self-discovery, and being reacquainted with my own traumas, my own wounds. And then, helping those wounds bring the best of me, the most loving aspects of me, to the work that we do. a little digression here, but the spirits moved me to share this with you. Did you guys know, and I think this is really cool, and there's a special word for it that is escaping me, so if you guys know what it is, you can pop it in the chat box. But in I think it's Japan, and please forgive me if I'm misrepresenting, but when a bowl or a vase or something gets broken, they will glue it back together, but they glue it back together and they paint it with gold. And it's just such a beautiful metaphor that it's the wounds that make the vase or the bowl or whatever even more beautiful. And that's the beauty that we hide, right? Our wounds that we kind of get taught through this acculturation process. Stuff that down. Nobody wants to hear about it. You know, you got to show up professional. Like apparently, if you show up human, you're not being professional. If you show up with compassion, it could be misconstrued as not being professional. And I'm making some generalizations. Just, you know, find the truth in what it is that I'm trying to communicate with you guys. But I think it's important for us. What I've discovered, at least in my own journey, right, is becoming reacquainted with my wounds and metabolizing my story. Stories matter for sure, but we have to metabolize that story so that we can then bring the best of the story to our lives, to others, to the work that we do. If any of you guys are familiar with the work of Laura Vandernoot Lipsky, she's the author of the book Trauma Stewardship. I'm just looking over my screen to see my library over there. And also another book, more recent, The Age of Overwhelm. But it's in the book of Trauma Stewardship where she talks about the importance of metabolizing our trauma story. And just like metabolism, right? You get rid of the stuff that doesn't serve you, and then you hold on to the stuff that does. And that's, you know, that's the invitation here. That's how you paint the vase with gold. It's that metabolic process that brings the beauty of your suffering, the beauty of your stories to the service of others. I see someone's made a comment over here. Her new book is what it is. Yeah, I'm in love with her. I'm a total groupie of Laura. She's just brilliant. If you haven't seen her YouTube video, it's called Beyond the Cliff. You absolutely have to see it. It'll shake you up and just change how you look at your work and the importance of, I'll use self-care because I know it's a wicked overused term, but really self-discovery is just really, really important. And so, you know, I'm kind of like building up to this idea of the beauty that we hide. And this was a quote from Winston Churchill that I thought was wicked cool. And there were some other quotes. You know, there's something about the outside of a horse that is good for the inside of man. And as I was kind of like building this presentation from this story of a colleague of mine, I learned so much about horses and healing. And it really, you know, when I look at these animals, to me, and I don't know if you guys are, I don't have a horse. I've been on a horse once in my life, but they are beautiful, majestic animals, at least in my opinion. And I was really struck by the therapeutic use of horses in behavioral health, and that I wasn't even aware of. It's called equine assisted therapy, and this other one is called hippotherapy. And the equine is, from what I understand, is about creating a relationship with the horse, and I'll talk a bit about that. And the hippotherapy is how when riding the horse, it really helps you be re-embodied, and the healing of that, right? And so again, it's that beauty that we hide. Most of us spend the bulk of our life, in this, again, is generalization, fretting about the outside, just always looking at the outside, and even looking to the outside to make us feel better on the inside. When the real truth of the journey that we're being invited to go on in this lifetime, I believe, is, you know, looking within for what it is that we need. The outside isn't going to give us what we need. We have what we need inside. We really do. And I know this from the work that I've done with myself, and it's being validated as I watch many of our learners in the Trauma-Informed Professional Certificate Program share their self-discoveries, and how that journey and discovery of the wealth and abundance and the power within is helping them then bring a higher self to the work that they do, to their lives, to their family, and all that kind of stuff. So, so stories, in my opinion, they help us transcend the mundane, right? We tell stories all the time. I'm always telling stories, right? Because I think stories help us connect with a common idea. Instead of me just dictating facts, that story connects and we feel together. We feel the sadness, we feel the disconnect, or we feel the jubilance and the joy that happens. But we have to metabolize, we have to do that work. And when we do that work, it gives us that deeper sense of self, of peace, of alignment, the discovery of inner wisdom, all of these things that, at least in my experience, I felt that they were very taboo with regards to my professional practice. I could do this stuff and work with it on my own. Great. No need to be talking about it, but, kind of coming out to work and to life. It was a different face that I had to put on. And I think we're really coming to a point in the world, in history, particularly in the wake of COVID, where we're discovering that the external isn't enough. We're hearing this from our patients. We're hearing this from our colleagues that are aching, and certainly they have external needs, but what they're really aching from is that loss of visibility, that lack of validation, being unseen in their suffering, all of that. Right. And so people are now demanding, patients and clinicians are demanding to have their mental health needs met, to meet the mental health needs of family. It's really important for us to understand this, but it begins with acknowledging that is a part of our journey that will help us bring our best self to the work that we do, that will help bring it and give us the strength that we need to serve others in meaningful, measurable, and compassionate ways. And so the thing about the horses that I thought was so interesting is that that I didn't realize this, but they're very well known for being super attuned, for picking up on animals, their horse mates' emotions and human emotions as well. And that they're just brilliant nonverbal communicators through mirroring emotions. They're able to connect with others. But of course, for that to have any meaning, they have to be present, right? And we have to be present for the encounter. So as I share this little story from my colleague, from Nancy, if you have a piece of paper or pen, or just in your head, just think about some of the correlations between what she's sharing with me about her relationship with her horse, and maybe correlations in your clinical setting or in your life. Okay, no pressure. Just see if there's any resonance in this story. So Nancy had gotten involved in horses, and it really helped her. She's a nurse practitioner, and it really helped her process a lot of the stress that she experiences in work and life, and whatever the bits of her story is. Working with horses really helped her. And she had this amazing relationship with her horse. And then she wrote to me after a blog post, like about a year or so ago, that her horse, I'm just reading my notes about the story, okay, so I don't misrepresent, that her horse had to go on stall rest. So I guess that they get put in their stall and they can't run around and have fun because the horse suffered from a torn tendon injury, which was very traumatic. And Nancy says, for both the horse, but for her as well, because she had a relationship with the horse, and now she didn't get to hang out with the horse the way she used to. And she described him now as a totally different horse. So think about that. And what are some of the analogies in that statement? And she actually, because he was a different horse now, she was actually frightened of him. And she wasn't sure what to do. She felt that she had lost her best friend, and that he was now totally broken. And it wasn't until she sought some help from this horse specialist, a woman from Australia, who helped her redirect her feelings about the situation into cultivating a relationship with the horse. That and in cultivating that relationship, it required that Nancy then take the time to learn a little bit more about horses. And what she discovered is that there are 3 basic needs of a horse, and it's freedom, food, and family. I know some other mammals that have similar basic needs, although we can spread them out a little bit thicker. But his basic needs were immediately removed because he was put on in the stall rest mode. And so she started really kind of like, as she was developing this new relationship, she said here, I also learned a lot about my mindset during this time, that she thought now her horse was bad. And then she realized, wait a minute, he's not really bad. He's just going through a trauma. He's experiencing a situation, and I need to really step up and help him, you know, on my side of the relationship, really help him. And she says that he was showing her how he felt. And that's the one thing about horses, she writes, that they are 100% authentic. She said that he was traditionally trained, which apparently means that the trainers put pressure on the horse until they get the desired response from the horse. And then the reward is the release of the pressure. And so he was very obedient, she said, prior to this injury. But as a result of the injury, she said he lost the sparkle in his eye and that he had just given up. The emotions that he was communicating to her, the feelings that he was conveying to her, right? Obviously non-verbally, but she was paying attention to him. She was present. She was cultivating that relationship with him. And she says she started to understand experiences that she had had around medical challenges that limited her mobility, and the process, the range of emotions, right, that she went through. She was actually seeing that in her horse, and she was able to empathize with the horse. And she decided, I need to figure out how I'm going to help them. And so she started asking herself these 4 questions as she was trying to reconnect with him. Do I have his full attention? Do I have positive anticipation? And she writes about, well, actually her next question was, do I feel unity? So, you might not use those same questions with a human being, but what she's describing really is presence. And I know I've given you this example before, in clinical practice, like before I kind of like found my way, I was very much into the doing too. And, if I had a patient assignment that was an 8-11-2-5, and for folks that don't know what that is, my patient was on an every 3-hour schedule. I had to do them up. That's the expression that we would use when I worked at Brigham. I had to do them up at 8 a.m., 11 a.m., 8-11-2-5, 2 p.m., 5 p.m. And then my shift was done. So he was an 8-11-2-5. And so at 8 o'clock, I would move up to the bedside, literally flip him, strip him, take his diaper off, lift up his shirt, listen to him, do my vital signs, do all the things I had to do to him. But I wasn't present with him. I didn't feel unity with him. I didn't have his full attention at all. We were not engaged at all. And imagine now, kind of in the place that I'm at now, being more trauma informed and developmentally sensitive, I realize, the suffering that I was inflicting on him. Obviously it wasn't intentional, but the thing of it is once you know, you can't unknow. I can forgive my past self, but I have to make sure that never happens again. And that's part of this mission, right? Is to help people see that as we serve others, and they can be critically ill babies in a NICU, they can be elderly people in an assisted living situation, they can be your family. It's everybody, and we need to bring that level of awareness. And we find that level of awareness by revealing the beauty that we hide. How did it feel to me when a similar situation was going down? And so that requires us to live where in the moment. And she actually goes on to talk about expectations and how expectations really keep us living in the past. My expectations is X, Y, and Z. Why? Because this is what I've done in the past, and I'm pushing it into the future. And when I do that, I'm not there in the present moment. And so, and I'm not saying that goals and expectations aren't good, but you can't superimpose them in this, kind of like forceful way, and get any good results. What you're really being invited to do is go, okay, I've done this in the past. I'm going to see what happens now, and be fully present for that experience. And that's what she did. And she just discovered this new depth of a relationship with her horse, and the self-discoveries that she made as she journeyed through his experience with trauma and was able to connect. And again, that's the beauty, right? So I'm going to pause for a second and just like flip over to you guys and ask you, so what do you think? What were there any connections here as I shared that story? What kind of popped into your head with any correlations? Ah, thanks, Karen. Yeah, of your foster and adopted children. Are you able to share in what way? Yeah, exactly. Those basic needs. They're so quintessential, right? Freedom, food, and family. The work is hard and it's draining, but so important. Exactly. And that's the reason why it's so wicked important for us to, practice self-care, for us to really do those deep dives in our own lives and really uncover the wealth of resource, the wealth of love, the wealth of wisdom that lies within. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, it's very traumatic to be removed from your family, freedom, and food. Absolutely. And so again, it's those stories that we connect with in an authentic way that helps us bridge the suffering of another, and we become, that support to where they are to that next level, that level of recovery, that level of resilience that we can help cultivate in others by acknowledging their lived experience and letting them know that they don't have to do this alone. Loneliness kills. We know this. I mean, there's papers written about that. They did really interesting research around folks that suffered myocardial infarction, a heart attack. And those individuals that lived alone were more likely to succumb following their initial attack than those folks that had very solid relationships. And there's other research there too that I didn't curate for this talk, but if you're interested, I'm happy to share it with you. Dana, the way she started to see the horse after the injury as he was bad, I think at times that happens with our patients' families who have been in the NICU. You're absolutely right. One thought comes to my mind is, have you ever had that experience where, somebody will say, why does this baby always lose their IV when I come on shift? Really? I think he was waiting for you. He was waiting for you to show up to blow his IV. And actually, that response, if you read the work of Laura Vandernoot Lipsky, that's evidence of a trauma exposure response. Oh gosh, thank you guys. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, elements that break us all down. Absolutely. I mean, we're not immune to this. And bearing witness to the tragedy that befalls others is an added burden to our own stuff, right? Our own stuff that breaks us down. The pandemic has been so traumatizing to everyone. It's hard to know how we will all recover. Absolutely, Elizabeth. And I think certainly recognizing it, saying that out loud is a first step to then give yourself permission to do the things that fill your cup up. And sometimes to fill your cup up, you got to empty it out, empty the crap, the old stuff that's in there, empty that out, and then start replenishing yourself with new eyes and being present to the joy, practicing gratitude, do meditation, all of those things that people say, yeah, they work. I mean, obviously you have to do the stuff that feels aligned with you, but that's how you regroup and that's how you build your strength back up. We see foster children as bad when they act out after losing the 3 F's. Yes. And again, the younger you are to the experience of trauma, the more difficult it is for you to do that metabolism, right? Children learn what the world is about through their experiences in the world, right? How does the world make them feel? And that's then the behavior, all behavior is communication. So that behavioral communication is an expression of how they feel inside that they can't find the words for. And that's why, again, it's so important then that we cultivate this awareness of trauma, that we become sensitive to trauma and developmentally aware. So according to SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration in the United States, the way they define trauma is using this 3 E's, okay? That trauma results from an event, a series of events or set of circumstances that is experienced, that's the second E, by an individual as physically or emotionally harmful or life-threatening, and that has lasting adverse effects. It's an event that is experienced by an individual that leaves lasting effects. And that these effects can alter the functioning of their mental capabilities, their physical, social, emotional, and even spiritual well-being. And in healthcare, we bear witness to small and big trauma, right? I mean, the big trauma is in our face, the life-threatening stuff, the diseases, all that other kind of stuff. But then there's that day-to-day trauma of parental separation, fragmented sleep, a crazy environment, pain and pain-related stress that's unmanaged or undermanaged. All of these things, distressing eating encounters. And for us, that care for newborns or infants and young children, the number one trauma experienced by this patient population is maternal separation and deprivation. It immediately activates a stress response. And what we know, just from a generalist perspective, that recent, I think it was 2019, paper shared that 61% of Americans report at least one adverse experience during the first 18 years of life, with 25% reporting 3 or more adverse childhood experiences. Globally, 2/3 of the youth around the world experience childhood adversity, regardless of where they live in the world. And again, everyone, that's their story, right? That's their experience. It's a traumatic story. And even the newborn has a story to tell, because most hospital experiences are fraught with some level of trauma or traumatic experience, even in the newborn setting. Undermanaged pain, heel pricks, immunizations. We poo-poo it, but to that infant, that's a novel experience that overwhelms them. They're not expecting to feel pain. And it's worse when they are separated from their mother. We think we're so slick and we're going to make it all, wicked efficient, and we'll wrap them up like a lavash. We'll take them away because we don't want to upset the parent. We'll just jab them with the needle and then bring them on back. That leaves a cellular memory on that individual. Now, certainly there's a dose-dependent response, but it doesn't mean that it's okay. Oh, it's just one stick. It's not a big deal. Oh, Karen, right. Yeah. I'm frustrated when staff don't encourage parents to be present in the NICU daily. You're absolutely right. And Karen, this is just such a huge challenge. We'll touch upon a little bit in the when I talk about the compassionate collaborative relationship piece. But yes, because we think we're helping them, I think, but we don't realize that we're actually adding insult to injury, and that these families are in the throes of trauma in that moment. And the way they cope with their trauma is through a myriad of what may seem adaptive in the moment, but becomes maladaptive over time. They stay away. They feel unimportant. I caused this. I'll just keep out of the clinician's ways. They just need the nurses and the doctors now. They don't need me. And they get lost in their story of pain, their story of suffering. And we, with open eyes, need to see this and recognize when it's happening so that we can rescue them from their story and help them process the story. and let go of what doesn't serve them. This is not your fault. You're a wonderful human being, and this baby, you are this baby's heir. This baby needs you desperately. But when we don't say those words consistently, repeatedly, reliably, these families get lost in their trauma, and they get lost to us then. You know, and so this is, again, this is why this is just so wicked important. So being trauma sensitive, being aware of what is trauma is important, but also being developmentally aware. Being developmentally aware invites us to understand the influence of trauma, that the influence of trauma has on the developmental stage of where an individual is. We practice family integrated care, and a new mom is never separated from her baby. We do CPAP and lab drives with the baby on the mom's chest. Yes, Gloria, yes, it makes a huge difference. Absolutely, it makes a huge difference. Absolutely, for the baby, but also for the parent. It's like so super empowering for the parent. And you think about their stage of psychosocial development, right? Being developmentally aware of where the parents are. And so generally, you know, childbearing, you know, ages are usually kind of like that Erik Erikson stages, you know, like intimacy versus isolation. And so, you know, having that sense of intimacy with my brand new baby, that sense of intimacy with my family gets cracked wide open and fractured in an acute care situation. And so we need to understand that as well as, yes, exactly, Gloria, exactly. It's just so, so important that we're aware of it on all sides. And that's, you know, as I transition into the strength piece, it's really understanding then our opportunity to cultivate these compassionate, collaborative relationships based on our shared humanity, based on our understanding of our shared experiences with trauma, with tragedy, with difficulty, with pain, with loss, with fear, with anger. And so this idea of compassionate, collaborative relationships is, it's an evolution of the core measures for trauma-informed care. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with this. There are 5 core measure sets. They were initially established in 2009 by Sharon Gibbons, a PhD NNP out of Sick Kids in Toronto, the late Stephen Hoth, a neonatologist out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and myself. So privileged to work with these amazing people as we identified evidence-based and evidence-informed strategies to support the infant and family in crisis. And we used to have this core measure called family collaborative care. So it was like all of these other core measures, and you'll see them on a slide shortly, and then the family, right? But then we realized, well, gee willikers, you know, we're siloing the family out again. And isn't the goal really about partnerships? It's about compassionate relationships. And so now the family is woven through all aspects of the core measures. And you know, and the core, the attributes of this core measure then have implications for not just the baby, but the family and ourselves as well. And so what you see on this slide here, these are the attributes of the core measure for compassionate collaborative relationships. So it's about emotional well-being. It's about self-efficacy, which can kind of be this weird word. At least it was a weird word for me, but I love how my colleague kind of sums up this word. Self-efficacy, she says this, she goes, it's I got this feeling. It's the I got this feeling. Like I can execute this. I can take action here. So when I'm demonstrating self-efficacy, it's I got this. And then it's about communication. And communication that needs to be consistent, compassionate, reciprocal, with respected active listening. Communication is not words falling out of my mouth and me walking away and going to do something else. That's not communication, right? It's that reciprocal relationship-based exchange. We frequently have babies with NAS that are getting no caregiving contact. It's heart crushing. And that's why this work is so critical and really needs to be, you know, raised to the next level. And I don't want to digress yet, but I'm going to jump back onto that, Karen, in just a moment. And so again, you know, when you think about the beauty that we hide and the strength that we share, the strength that we share is that beauty of stories, of similar experiences, of our shared humanity, our shared connectedness that we can then bring to the service that we provide for each other, in recognizing that we are in this together. We are all here to support each other in loving, authentic ways. And yeah, Sometimes it can feel icky. Sometimes it can be scary. But that's where the power lies. That's where the strength is. And that's where we are then enabling others to cultivate resilience, because they know I don't have to do this alone. Because when I'm alone, it's scary and it's overwhelming. And I just don't believe I don't have that. I got this feeling. But when I'm with you, when I'm with my mom, when I feel supported, when I feel seen, I got this. And that translates into that resilience and overcoming these big challenges, right? I mean, we see it. We see these babies that are in isolation forever. They're too sick to hold, too sick to feed, too sick to X, Y, and Z. And what ends up, they die. And I mean, you know, I know you need to look at the numbers. I've got lots of anecdotal stories, but loneliness kills. And what we need to understand is we need each other to survive. We need it, from babies to elderly. You hear this in the adult literature, that when couples are, you know, together for a long time and one partner passes away, the other partner generally passes not too long after. They need each other. We need each other, and we need to be aware of that biologic need for connectedness, because connectedness confers safety and compassion and helps me be seen. And that's what becoming trauma informed is, that strength we share then, because I know my story and I know what I need. And so I'm going to offer that to you. I'm not going to shove it down your throat, but I'm going to show up with compassion and understanding. I might feel scared. I might feel, you know, a little bit weird, but I'm going to show up because I know that that's what you need, and you don't need to say anything. And so for us, you know, for Caring Essentials, for my amazing colleagues and team, this is the work that we really focus on. And what we've discovered is that it does begin with you, right? The story and the self-discovery begins with you. And what you're seeing on the screen might look like a busy eye chat, but it's a framework of looking at our opportunities to show up authentically, vulnerably, and help others. That orange brownish outer ring, those are the attributes of a trauma-informed professional. And so as people move through their journey of discovery to become a certified trauma-informed professional, they really uncover the depths of their knowledge. And this is not just empirical knowledge, it's all ways of knowing. They reacquaint themselves with their healing intention and all ways of healing, and that they know that their strength comes from personal wholeness, all ways of wholeness. How do I care for myself? As you guys had mentioned in the chat, right? The toll that the pandemic has had, we need to regroup, we need to fill up, we need to take care of ourselves. You cannot give what you do not have. And once we have those building blocks, it then girds us and gives us the courage that we need, all ways of braving, to take that step forward and advocate, always of championing, always of role modeling and mentoring. Scholarly is always of sharing the knowledge that we had, formally, informally. And that helps us really become that ever unfolding leader for change. And it's not a destination ever, it's a journey. I mean, I've been on this journey now for 8 years, and I'm still learning more things, learning new ways, gaining better insights, keener insights into the real power of presence and you know, bringing our true self to the work that we do. Let me just give you a little bit more about this framework. I'm watching the time as well, but those white balls that you see on the screen, those are the principles of a trauma-informed approach. You'll see some variations of this in other areas that look at other facets, but these are kind of core principles. It's about safety, ensuring safety. And we think, well, of course we have safety. You know, we have our CLABSI protocols and our VAP protocols and this protocol and that protocol. Yeah, that's a piece of the safety, but there's also psycho-emotional safety. There's spiritual safety that we need to think about. We need to think about it from that big lens, that outer lens that helps us really dive in and see the whole person, not just their disease, not just their disruption, but their wholeness, the beauty of who they are, their full potentiality, and offer them choice provide collaborative experiences. Even with little babies, we can do this, okay? And when we do that, we empower them, we cultivate that resilience, and we create a trusting milieu and rapport that then really, it just like builds on itself. And the operational strategy for this, right, is those multicolored blocks, those kind of green and blue ones or aqua ones that you see. Those are the core measures. Those are the kind of the actions piece of how we provide care. But what you'll notice in this latest iteration of, I'm looking at my book here, the second edition of Transformative Nursing in the NICU, I've revised these core measures to have relevance for the baby, of course, for the family, yes, but I also did a whole bunch of research and provide the backup and the evidence-based strategies to meet our needs around these core measures as clinicians. Because again, you can't give what you don't have. And that was a lot of work because I'm not a grown-up clinician, but it was very insightful to really help me discover why our colleagues are suffering, because they're not taking care of ourselves, especially nurses, right? I mean, and I just say that because I'm a nurse, right? But you know, we've got that MATA thing going on. You know, I got to do more for others. I got to do everything for everybody else. And who loses? Me. I'm not taking care of myself. But Jean Watson and wiser people than me, Jean Watson's a nurse theorist who I'm madly in love with, I admire. You cannot give what you do not have. You can't pour from an empty cup. And so if you can't treat yourself with love and dignity and respect, you're not giving it to others. What you're giving is a sham. And what we've discovered is that this journey then really becomes that transformational roadmap, if you will, to discover how you can fill your cup up, how you can cultivate your own resilience, how you can empower your true self, your true wisdom, by going on this journey with us to become a trauma-informed professional. Our current situation is then, and we've got some of our tippers on the call here, which is wicked awesome. We've got close to 200 folks enrolled in the program. We started the program last November. 54 graduates representing 35-ish maybe states here in the US and 13 countries. So amazing. Our goal is for 1,000 this year. We're chipping it away. And on the bottom of this slide, you can see that these are the organizations that are endorsing the program: the National Association of Neonatal Nurses, NIDCAP Federation, and the Equine. And currently the National Association of Perinatal Social Workers is reviewing the program as well. And we're hoping for their endorsement as well. I wanted to share this with you. This is a quote from a recent graduate, Britt Pados, a nurse researcher and academician here in Boston, at Boston College School of Nursing, where she really, talks about this journey being soul transformational, and that, trauma-informed care can't be one of those nice things, but it's a critical aspect of providing excellent evidence-based care. And I mean, for, someone of that caliber to really kind of validate this, and we've got validation from a myriad of other professionals. And so if you're okay with this, and I know I kind of already threw the slide up there and I should really ask permission, but if you're okay with this, I would love to just share with you a little bit about the program and its components. Just to kind of, give you the full picture here, full transparency. I want you to learn how to become a trauma-informed professional, and this is it. It's a unique approach to this. There are other trauma-informed programs out there that really talk about strategies for de-escalation that obviously has value and stuff, but I think until you've done the work on yourself and been able to kind of unbundle your passion and your purpose from that daily task list, then, de-escalating and all those other kinds of strategies is just another to-do, just another thing on a checklist. And being trauma-informed in the eyes of my team and myself and Caring Essentials, it's not about doing two. It's really about connecting with that other individual that's hurting, that's suffering. Hurt people, and we need to be able to see that hurt so we can help them. We can help them move through their hurt, metabolize their hurt, and come out more resilient on the other side. So the elements of the program include a Surge Masterclass, and I don't know if that font is too faint for you. It looked cool on my practice slides, but it's a 3-hour interactive virtual learning experience, and you just have to attend one of those. And then the bulk of the program are these self-paced online modules. There are 8 modules, well, 9 because there's a welcome module, but 8 modules. One corresponds to each of the attributes. And each module is comprised of some videos, some readings, and then you're required to do reflections and a pre and post assessment. We built the program to meet the accreditation requirements of the Institute for Credentialing Excellence. The folks that we have enrolled in the program go across all different disciplines, nursing, medicine, rehab services. We've got social workers, parents of former premature people, and the clinical areas that are represented include NICU, PICU, cardiac care unit, developmental follow-up clinic, perinatal, labor and delivery. So we've got a wide range of folks. And so we didn't really want the course to be accredited by one discipline. We really wanted it to be open to that. And of course, we've got many, as you heard, 13 countries, many international learners as well. So we wanted it to really have that broad scope. So the self-paced modules, and that's really the meat and potatoes of the program. Over the course of this, it probably will take you about 6 months. If you can commit to about 2 to 4 hours per week on average. The beginning of the program, it's front-loaded. There's a lot more work, a lot more reading, because those are the foundational elements. But then as you turn the corner after Courage, things really lighten up and you can kind of get into that groove. And so it's an average amount of time. You're also required to attend 2 90-minute mastermind sessions. And these are amazing. Actually, one of my colleagues calls it going to church. And because it's just so deep and rich, and people really make connections with, folks from around the globe, literally, where you can share where you are on the journey. How are you applying what you're learning on the journey? What are some of your challenges and things along that range? Can you take longer? How long do you actually have to finish it? So it is, technically, it is a 6-month program. We have had learners go anywhere from 2 months to 6 months. We have had several people, though, life happens and stuff like that. And we do grant 2-month extensions as needed on an individual basis. But again, our goal is not to traumatize you as you go on this journey. We're very open-hearted about this, and we want to work with you because our goal, we know the more trauma-informed professionals we have on the planet, the more transformation that we can create. As a summary of the program is a final examination. It's an open book exam, and it's all based on this book here, 2nd edition of Transformative Nursing in the NICU. So you basically you pass because you got the book. You get the answers are all in the book. There are additional elements to the program that we offer learners. You get a digital copy of the book. So literally, once you enroll in the program, within 24 hours, you'll get a special link that'll allow you to download your digital copy of the book. For nurses, we have 46 hours of continuing education credit available. It's through the Massachusetts Board of Registered Nurses. We have had many PT and OT, and I think even speech colleagues, though, apply through their agencies or their organizations, and they've also received credit. And we do, the faculty does include Tara's a PT on our faculty, and Christy's an OT, so they can really speak to that aspect of it. So we do have resources for that. Also, just because we're super nerds here and we want you to have as much knowledge as you possibly can carry, you also have access to the recordings of our past Science and Soul conferences, and these are the conferences about trauma-informed developmental care. And we've had amazing international speakers to include Dr. Heidelise Alves, Dr. Rosario Monteroso, Livio Provenzi. These are guys from Northern Italy who've done all the research on epigenetics and the neurobiology and the psychopathology of premature babies who experience early life adversity in the NICU, and so many other speakers. So you've really got that. And then the other piece is, because this is an assessment-based certificate program, you're a TIPer for life, okay? There's no recertification requirements, and you have lifetime access to the program content and the community. And we're also launching now a graduate mastermind session, because again, we want to continue to nurture you. We're like gum in your hair. You can't get rid of us easy. All right. We know we need a cadre to transform the heart and soul of healthcare around the world. And those are the folks that we're looking for. Again, I just had to sprinkle a few more just amazing quotes from our graduates and learners. This beautiful program is guiding me on a journey to recognize, believe, and practice the true value, power, and grace of compassionate presence in all I think, feel, do, and say. Leaning into being with rather than doing to share both the highs and lows of another's or our own life is surely everything we must embody as a trauma-informed professional and a human being. Mel is from the UK. And this beautiful human says amazing things. And I love this last sentence. The program was an awakening for me to heal from within so that I can be all that others need me to be for their own journey. Just amazingly beautiful things. I know I got carried away. I apologize, but you read these things and it's just like, oh my gosh, we are touching so many souls in beautiful, transformative ways. A beautiful, unexpected journey. And she really talks about unleashing her why. And that's in reference to the work of Simon Sinek, right? That why do you do this? What's your passion and your purpose? And Amanda's going to, be a real big mover and shaker in the world. What I've learned from this work, and if you can hang with me a few more minutes, I am in the home stretch. And this is a quote actually that I didn't put in quotations, but all health begins with mental health. That's from the American Psychiatric Nurses Association. How you feel affects your physicality, affects your physiology. And your physiology then, like if you're not feeling well, can exacerbate your mental state. So understanding that, right? All health begins with mental health. And to me and my colleagues, we believe your health begins then with becoming trauma-informed. Because this is a journey to help heal you, to help you uncover your wounds, metabolize your story, metabolize your trauma, so that you can bring that light and bring that beauty within to the service of others. And then in doing so, right, you help people move through their own challenge. And so this, so you may be thinking, so, okay, great, this sounds amazing. We need to do this, well, what's the investment? And I would ask you to just kind of think about, what is it worth to you to unbundle yourself from your own trauma, to rediscover your inner wisdom and the light that shines within you. I mean, for me, that's priceless. But obviously, there is a price on this, and I'm going to share with you on the next slide that we have two strategies, two plans for the payment. You can pay either $266.33 per month times 6 payments over your program course, or you can pay in bulk $14.98, and that's a savings of $100. And I'm actually going to come over here, and I'm going to put this link up on your screen. And that brings you right over to the program page. Lots of information, lots of description, bios about the faculty, information about group rates and all of that kind of stuff. And then the option, if you want to enroll in the program, please feel free to go ahead and enroll in the program. We need you. We cannot do this alone. That's for Don Shore. And so what I want to do now is I'm going to come back over to my slides, and I'm just going to share this last slide and then just kind of let loose and stop the slides and open up for questions. And thank you, for those that have to run off, I completely understand. I talk a lot, and I always try and limit my slides, but I always, end up going over because I just get so excited and impassioned about the material. Do you have to take one of the master classes and then to enroll in the program? So that is an option, Juanita. The master class is included into the entire curriculum. Okay, so the entire course includes that master class. It includes the mastermind sessions and the online modules, as well as the final exam, the book, all of that. That's all included with the course. For some folks, they feel like, you know what, I don't think I'm quite ready for this yet, but maybe I'll just take the master class, dip my toe into the pool. And that's absolutely a possibility too. And I can follow up with you. I'm going to put my email in here, you guys. If you have to jump off, did it come up? Yep, it came up. And I can share more information with you. I can also, I've got this here, and I'm not really sure what it looks like on your side, so you'll have to let me know. But I just clicked a sharing of a brochure, but I don't know if it will show when I have, because I have this offer image up, but I will share it with a follow-up email. And I just, as an expression of my gratitude, deep gratitude for your gracious attention during this and for staying 5 minutes over. For anyone who enrolls within the next 48 hours, I would love to give you an autographed copy of the hard copy of the book. If you enroll in the next 48 hours, that will be my gift to you guys as an expression of my love and gratitude for just taking the leap and going for it and becoming part of this incredibly important movement. What we're working on now, we've been invited to partner with the National Association of Neonatal Nurses, and we're writing a position statement about trauma-informed care in the NICU. It comes on the heels of the recent policy statement issued by the American Academy of Pediatrics about the need of trauma-informed care for child health services. And our team has also been invited to collaborate with the Council of International Neonatal Nurses, and we will be putting together an advocacy brief, again, talking about the importance of trauma-informed care and engaging several other organizations, parent representation as well, to kind of sign off on this advocacy statement for global impact. So this, this is not willy-nilly. This is serious stuff. We are absolutely going to transform the heart and soul of healthcare around the world, and we would be so grateful for you to join us. Thank you, Karen. I'll check out with you. I'll reach out to you and anyone else. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I do appreciate your grace for spending these extra minutes with me. I will follow up with an email. I'll follow up with the flyers for the TIP program if you need any additional questions. Or have any additional questions, you're most welcome, Jean. Thank you so very much for joining. Very, very grateful for it. For all of you guys, thank you so very, very much. Mwah. Keep your eyes peeled on your inbox for an email from me. All righty, you guys all take care. Thank you so very much. Big hugs and buckets of love. Thank you so much, Beth. Thank you, Gloria. Thank you very much.